Welcome to the AI Equation podcast. I'm your host, Alex. Today, I'm excited to be talking to Jonathan Geggatt. He is the senior engineer at CoderPad, and he's going to tell us what he does there. He used to be at Hotels Tonight. Is that correct, Jonathan?
Yep, that's right. Hotels Tonight and Airbnb for a little while.
How was that? How many years were you there for?
I was at Hotel Tonight for about 5 years, and then went through the acquisition process when Airbnb purchased us, and went through the whole, starting up at Airbnb and trying to figure out how Hotel Tonight can fit into that culture. When I was presented with the opportunity to come over to CoderPad, so took the jump at that point when I had the chance.
Fantastic. Well, welcome to the podcast, and we're going to talk about some AI here today. That's why we brought you on. We know that you guys have the integration with Chat GPT and then plugins and of course LinkedIn. LinkedIn just announced a bunch of new AI tools for premium members as well. So, it's everything about AI. And you and I were just chatting before the podcast about how many conversations with your clients start with addressing the elephant in the room, which is AI, and also so many developers, engineers who are now AI experts, right? Even if they can't do generative AI, because it seems like everybody's using the same 5-6 open source tools out there. So talk to me about how this AI boom has impacted CoderPad.
Yeah, so CoderPad is a tool for assessing the skills of engineers and knowing whether essentially you should hire them to be on your team or not. And so when a tool like AI comes along and Chat GPT, it really adds another tool to the arsenal that developers have at their disposal. So, a lot of that is like, how could we bring AI into CoderPad and so that people can use it in a way that mimics their day-to-day usage of the tool? And then also knowing that engineers have this ability to quickly get answers to questions and close some of their knowledge gaps. How do we build that into our hiring processes that we facilitate, so that hiring managers can get a good sense of whether a candidate truly knows some of the material that they're asking them, or if they're just regurgitating something that an AI bot told them to tell back to their interviewer. So, we've talked a lot with our customers about how they're integrating these tools into their daily workflows and how they would like to be able to identify when candidates use it. We've always taken the approach of really emphasizing that candidate experience and trying to make candidates as comfortable as possible. So the first feature that we came out with was an integration of Chat GPT directly into the CoderPad UI. So while you're coding on the left, you can have a screen on the right that is your chat history with the bot, and you can ask it questions about the questions that the interviewer is asking you, or some syntax related questions that you may have. But the key part there is that the interviewer can see exactly what you're typing and the answers that you're getting, and then also what you're typing into the code itself. So they get a better sense of how these interactions are going, whether you're doing a good job at that particular task or not, and whether the answer was kind of given to you on a silver platter or not. So that's back in our interviewing product. But when word of Chat GPT plugins came out, we got really excited about being able to interject CoderPad into that flow somehow. And we came up with a bunch of ideas, things like a virtual assistant for helping you to set up an interview flow, helping you decide what types of questions you want to ask your candidates when they get into your interviews. But where we landed was just a simple tool for being able to generate code within your conversation with Chat GPT, and then quickly taking that into an interactive coding environment where you're not having to worry about, for instance, setting up Python or, installing some packages that you would need to use. You would just be able to grab that code from Chat GPT, place it in CoderPad, hit the run button, and see what it does. Most of the time that code's going to work in the way that you would expect it to, but not always. And so you may need to iterate on it and, try to come up with the solution you're looking for. So we have had a ton of usage of this plugin. It's kind of blown us away with how popular it's been. And it's kind of fun to go through, and look at some of the generations that the AI has come up with based on, some random description of the problem the user was trying to solve and the actual code that the thing spit out. So it's pretty cool to see as this is all evolving.
And even if you're not in the interview process, is a user, a developer able to use the Chat GPT plugin anyways, just to do some situational interviewing exercises?
Yeah, whether it's an interviewing exercise or even in your day to day, like I have some problem I'm trying to solve, I'll often go to Chat GPT and ask it some specific question about, the problem I'm facing, and oftentimes it'll respond with some code. So you can just grab that, place it in CoderPad, and try to run it if your local environment's not set up to quickly take something like that and test it out. So we feel like it's a nice benefit to the ways that engineers go around trying to solve their problems and figure out what the right solutions are. And hopefully, in the future, we can continue to improve on this plugin and make it even better and, able to help you solve these problems in a faster way.
Are there any languages that, maybe the bot has some weaknesses in? And I'm asking that because in a lot of other use cases, of course, whether it's Chat GPT or Claude or any of the other bots out there, there are hallucinations. But I think it depends on the subject matter. I'm not sure about coding. You tell me.
Well, you're right. The more popular languages, the more popular the type of question that you're asking it, the more likely you are to get a really relevant and helpful solution. Once you get into some of the niche languages or areas of technology that you're trying to get a solution for, you may have to work more closely with the bot to get it to the right answer. The other side of that is, what actual model you're using. So ChatGPT, when it came out, was using ChatGPT 3. I think since then they've come out with 3.5 and 4. And, I haven't had a lot of time to play with all these various models and really evaluate them compared to each other. But I know that as we get along with our model development, the amount that can be stored in context increases, and the quality of the suggestions that the AI bot is spitting out really start to improve. And so, you may have trouble, asking for something very specific in some obscure language. But for the most part, it can help you get to a better solution, knowing some of the basics about syntax that it does, but also knowing like a lot of the strategies that engineers take to come up with solutions. So it's a really, really interesting technology, and I can't believe we're actually finally here where we're able to have these types of interactions with it.
Absolutely. And I think it's one of those things where naturally developers, engineers, anyone in the world of tech, anyways, the ones who want to grow and have that thirst for knowledge and developing and solving problems, this is like the perfect technology for it, because it just, the more you use it, I know even myself as a marketer every day, that's the amount of use cases and how I, not only myself, but my team, my clients, like there are so many use cases to become more productive. And as long as you know what you're doing, the accuracy to me and hallucinations aren't really an issue. Obviously you can give it instructions and it can build on your history as well. So I feel like, to your point, on this podcast, we talk about that a lot. Just, there are so many use cases, so many companies like out there. Obviously you guys, CoderPad, leading the way in this, IT assessment world, use cases that you could have never imagined. I feel like a few years ago, we probably would be talking about a knowledge base where there's just very static answers to a question with a bot, because I know I've programmed bots that way. And you're like, hey, I got 500, FAQs in there, but that's very static. But to actually have this like very human-like conversation, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's really cool. And I think, like you said, it really opens up a lot of avenues for automation and really taking the place of some of the creative process that a human would have to go through. And I think when a human is involved in that back and forth with the AI, you really do get those types of like quality outputs that you're looking for. And when an AI is just allowed to kind of go off and do its own thing for a while, you start to see, you call them hallucinations, but just the craziness that can come up out of it. I think my favorite one is the AI Seinfeld episode that's been running on Twitch for months and months and months, where it's just them sitting around the apartment talking to each other in Seinfeld ways. But that's the type of thing where like it can just keep going and it'll keep making up stuff. But if there's some human there to keep it in check and to help guide it towards the answers it's looking for, you get better results.
It's a lot of fun. So do you think for you guys there at CoderPad, I know you guys have some courses on LinkedIn as well, right?
That's right.
So are you guys planning on including that into the plugin, or is the plugin just going to be for coding and language?
So I think that anytime that you're looking at writing code on CoderPad, you should have these tools at your disposal to be able to do a good job. And part of that is, an IDE that engineers are familiar with. So, we use Monaco, which is built off of VS Code, which is the most popular IDE in the world these days. So, we give engineers an IDE that they're familiar with, so we should give them other tools. And so anywhere that you're writing code, you should be able to interact with an AI that can see your code, can help to make suggestions, can understand where bugs are, because that's what people are doing. When they open up VS Code and they have the Copilot in place, or some of these other larger models that can help you analyze your code. So yeah, I think the plan long term is to continue to find other places in our product where we can continue to interject AI tools, whether that's interacting with it in a chat-like manner, or helping you to prepare for an interview by taking, essentially like fake interviews, mock interviews with an AI interviewer, guiding you along the way. And then on the other side of things, for our hiring managers, there's not a lot of tools out there that really can look at your hiring process and help you to understand where the inefficiencies are, whether some of your interviewers are maybe giving more bias towards certain types of candidates than others. And so we're really hopeful that with AI helping to solve these problems, that we can start to make the interviewing process more fair globally, and ultimately make it a better experience for candidates when they're trying to choose their next job.
I love it, man, because, whether you're hiring for, IT, or you're hiring for marketing or sales, HR, whatever department in any company you're hiring, it's hard. But IT, I've always felt that was one that was always as challenging to assess a developer's skills as it is sales. To me, hiring for sales has always been the hardest, because you have to train people and there's a lot of behavioral, but IT was always the same. For 20 years, I've done tons of projects and on the marketing side, but when I'm hiring someone in IT to maybe build an integration between two APIs, maybe the developer says they have the experience, they list it on their resume, and then all of a sudden they're hitting walls, and now we need to bring in somebody else for the database because they said they knew how to do this. And you're going, man, gosh, I wish there was a way for me to be able to assess that up front, and then just know up front. And because I think it's my experience anyways, across most industries, that people they embellish their resume and their abilities because they want to get the job. And it's hard for you to be able to eliminate their weaknesses if you don't do the assessments. And there's so many assessments in other industries, but I didn't know that you could do it with AI for IT. So I'm so glad that I found you guys. And I know our listeners too, people who are listening to the podcast who are business owners or are the other side in the IT industry themselves. Here's a great tool for them to use next time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just think that it is very difficult to assess the skills of an engineer, and especially when somebody's in a different part of the world, you're maybe not getting to meet them face to face. You're relying on some sort of collaborative environment to be able to test them. CoderPad does a great job of when you're in a live interview with an interviewer and a candidate. Really, it's hard to fake the fact that you don't know what you're doing. So being able to get a read on candidates really quickly is really important. But you're right. Even if you were to say, do you know how to speak French? I could say 10 French words to you, but does that mean that I speak French? Maybe enough to convince you, but not enough to convince somebody that actually does speak French. So the same way as in engineering, you do see a lot of people saying that they're capable of a lot, but that they want to learn. So a lot of these interviews turn out to be do you provide the base level skills that we're looking for? Meaning, do you understand some of the fundamentals of the languages we're using or the frameworks that we're using? Have you dealt with some of these types of problems that we're going to be dealing with in previous jobs? And can you talk to me about that? And then also, can you think in the ways that we want our team to be able to think also? So there's being able to assess technical skills is a part of that, but it's only a small part of that. And so if you can get really strong reads off of that technical skills read, then you're setting yourself up for a lot better of a process.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to add the CoderPad website to the show notes, Jonathan. But for those who just want to test out the tool using Chat GPT, how do they do that?
Yeah, so if you have a Chat GPT, access to Chat GPT plugins, you can find us in the plugin store. Just search for code. We'll come up really in the first set of results there. Alternatively, if you want to see CoderPad in more of its real form, you can go to coderpad.io/sandbox, and you'll get an interactive sandbox where you can test out the various languages that we support. We now support 30 plus languages in addition to 10 or more frameworks that you can actually run on CoderPad too. And by default, you'll get access to our AI chat client built right into the tool there as well. So we hope that you try it out.
Thanks so much, Jonathan.
All right, thanks for having me.